On November 1st, the Korean Central News Agency finally revealed the model of the intercontinental ballistic missile test fired on the morning of October 31st. According to the disclosure, the intercontinental ballistic missile model test fired on the morning of October 31st by the Missile General Bureau of the Korean People's Army on the banks of the Taedong River is the Hwasong-19. The Korean Central News Agency also simultaneously published test firing photos of the Hwasong-19 intercontinental ballistic missile. It is also this set of photos that allows us to take a glimpse of many technical details of the Hwasong-19 land-based intercontinental ballistic missile. First of all, it must be said regarding the exterior design of Hwasong-19. Although the appearance of Hwasong-19 is somewhat similar to Russia's RS-24YARS intercontinental ballistic missile, the design details of the two are completely different. Reflecting the originality of North Korean missile designers, for example, judging from the design of the missile launch tube head cover, Russian-made intercontinental ballistic missiles generally use a forward-thrown head cover. Before the missile is erected, the operator first unlocks the head cover, and the head cover of the launch tube naturally falls to the ground, and then the missile is erected. The Hwasong-19 seems to use a special head cover vehicle integrated design. There is a hinge at the bottom of the launch tube head cover, which can be fixed to the vehicle body. Before the launch tube is erected, the head cover opens, but does not fall to the ground and is still connected to the vehicle body. It is not clear what the intention of North Korea's such design is. Is it to save resources? Or is it to serve nuclear actual combat? After the launch is completed, the launcher can be disguised as if it has not been launched, deceiving the enemy's space reconnaissance and making the enemy possibly misjudge North Korea's nuclear strength after the strike. We don't know about this. Another example is judging from the design of the missile body tail cover. After the Hwasong-19 ballistic missile exits the tube, it does not use the lightweight tail cover commonly seen in Russian-made intercontinental ballistic missiles, but uses a rather large tail cover. After the missile exits the tube, there is a process in which the side thruster engine on the tail cover ignites, pushes the tail cover to one side, and then the main engine ignites. Judging from the video of the Korean Central News Agency, the flame of this tail cover side thruster engine of Hwasong-19 is very obvious. At the same time, I looked for the video of the previous launch of the Hwasong-18 intercontinental ballistic missile. It can be seen that the Hwasong-18 and Hwasong-19 both use a very thick tail cover. This missile body tail cover is completely different from the lightweight tail cover of the Russian RTTUTTKH Topol MNRS-24YARS intercontinental ballistic missiles. Instead, it is similar to the large tail cover of the famous R-36 Satan Heavy intercontinental ballistic missile. It is also not clear why North Korea would abandon the lightweight tail cover and use a tail cover of such a large volume. It stands to reason that every inch of space in the launch tube of a mobile intercontinental ballistic missile is precious. If something can be lightweight, it will never be made large in volume. The only explanation is that North Korea's solid rocket engine technology seems to have not yet overcome the lightweight tail cover. This does give us a side view for evaluating North Korea's solid propellant technology questions about Hwasong-18 and Hwasong-19. Of course, the biggest problem, or a problem that even makes me feel a bit puzzled, is why the Hwasong-18 intercontinental ballistic missile and the Hwasong-19 intercontinental ballistic missile appear at the same time. I remember when North Korea first test-fired the Hwasong-18 in April 2023. My judgment at that time was that North Korea's intercontinental ballistic missile equipment system had been basically perfected. The basis for making this judgment is to use the equipment systems of intercontinental ballistic missiles of China and Russia as references. The land-based intercontinental ballistic missiles of China and Russia are basically divided into several categories. One is mobile solid propellant missiles. The second is silo-launched solid propellant missiles. And the third is silo-launched liquid propellant missiles. The first type corresponds to DF-41 and RS-20 for YARS. The second type corresponds to the silo-launched models of these two. The third type corresponds to DF-5BN or 36mm. To the deployment modes of the three types of intercontinental ballistic missiles are different. And the tasks they undertake are also different. Generally speaking, liquid fuel silo-launched intercontinental ballistic missiles that require long-term preparation may be regarded as a first-strike weapon, while the tasks undertaken by solid fuel intercontinental ballistic missiles are relatively more general for North Korea. Theoretically speaking, the Hwasong-17 can correspond to the equipment status of heavy liquid missiles in China and Russia. However, it seems that North Korea has not mastered silo technology. The launch method adopted by the Hwasong-17 is a relatively compromised or relatively primitive flat cave deployment and a launch method of erecting and launching on the sprinting launch site for liquid missiles. This launch method is already very rare. The Hwasong-18 can correspond to the status of general-purpose solid missiles in China and Russia. In simple terms, it is equivalent to RS-20 for YARS and DF-41. It can not only adopt the sprint launch mode, but also the underground silo launch mode. It is the real backbone of a country's intercontinental ballistic missiles, judging from the range of the Hwasong-18. In the high trajectory launch in April 2023, a high trajectory close to 6,000 kilometers was hit. This means that its maximum range is more than 12,000 kilometers. Based on this, I think the performance of the Hwasong-18 is very good and fully meets the corresponding technical requirements. Next, it is nothing more than a problem of expanding the deployment mode of intercontinental ballistic missiles for North Korea. If it wants to further improve the equipment pedigree of intercontinental ballistic missiles, what should be developed is a technology tree similar to the MGM-130 for Midgetman intercontinental ballistic missile. After all, given North Korea's complex terrain and the poor road construction conditions in the country, neither the 11-axle launch vehicle tail of the Hwasong-17 nor the 9-axle launch vehicle of the Hwasong-18 can implement wide-area maneuverability. In fact, only mountain cave depot deployment and sprinting field launch can be used. Given North Korea's domestic area, it is not an impossible task for the United States to conduct long-term surveillance of some missile technical positions and even conduct a preemptive nuclear strike to disarm North Korea. Therefore, for North Korea, there are only two channels to improve the survivability of its land-based intercontinental ballistic missiles. One is to build a strong silo with a compressive strength of 3,000 psi. With North Korea's financial resources and engineering implementation capabilities, this may be relatively difficult. The second is to develop a lightweight and small intercontinental ballistic missile like the Midgetman. This small intercontinental ballistic missile can use a 6-axle launch vehicle. It should be relatively easier to use North Korea's roads for maneuvering. That is to say, a wide area deployment mode can be adopted to maneuver between multiple positions, thereby increasing the difficulty of countermeasures. Of course, with North Korea's technical capabilities, it is estimated that such a Midgetman is also too difficult for North Korea. Therefore, maintaining the existing land-based intercontinental ballistic missile equipment pedigree is theoretically sufficient to meet North Korea's needs. So in this sense, after North Korea developed the Hwasong-18, which is similar to YARS, and suddenly developed the Hwasong-19, it seems puzzling. In terms of range, the Hwasong-19 does show extremely high range performance, judging from its maximum altitude of more than 7,000 kilometers. Its maximum range can reach more than 15,000 kilometers when launched from northern North Korea. It can not only hit the continental United States, but also have more than enough range to hit South America. For North Korea, this 15,000 kilometers is completely excessive performance, and for this excessive performance, the 11-axle launch vehicle tail of the Hwasong-19 is exactly the same as that of the Hwasong-17. It is estimated that, after certain technical improvements, it is directly used. Accordingly, its deployment method is probably the same as that of the Hwasong-17. It is completely unable to maneuver on the road and can only stay in a flat cave for sprint launch. For North Korea, if the existence of the Hwasong-19 has the same throwing configuration as the Hwasong-18, then its range performance is completely excessive. At the same time, its maneuverability and survivability have not been essentially improved compared to the Hwasong-18. What is North Korea aiming for by developing such a huge, the world's largest solid land-based mobile intercontinental ballistic missile? Positioning speculation of the Hwasong-19. Therefore, we can only make speculations about the original intention of developing the Hwasong-19 and its position in North Korea's intercontinental ballistic missile equipment system. I think there are several possibilities. First, the equipment position of the Hwasong-19 may replace the Hwasong-17. North Korea believes that as a liquid fuel intercontinental ballistic missile, the Hwasong-17 may still not be satisfactory in terms of launch response speed. Therefore, it is necessary to replace this heavy liquid missile like the Hwasong-17 with a solid missile as well, so as to improve the overall survivability of its intercontinental ballistic missiles. Second, the need for North Korea's intercontinental ballistic missiles to install heavy warheads or multiple independently target-able reentry vehicles (MIRV). Theoretically speaking, the farther the range, the greater the margin of throw weight, the higher the equivalent of the install-able heavy warhead, and the greater the number of install-able MIRV. But for North Korea, when the number of warheads may not be many in the first place, putting a large number of eggs in one basket does not seem to meet the requirements for improving battlefield survivability. Besides, the Hwasong-18 missile can theoretically also install MIRV. Therefore, I am skeptical about the intention that the main research and development goal of the Hwasong-19 is to install MIRV. You might as well say that North Korea really wants to develop a heavy warhead for it, such as a 10 megaton warhead. In the case of poor warhead miniaturization ability, if the Hwasong-18 carries such a warhead, it will seriously affect the range. Therefore, only another Hwasong-19 can be developed to carry it. But in today's era, when the strike effectiveness of heavy warheads has seriously declined, the motivation for North Korea to develop heavy warheads is also puzzling. Does North Korea also want to disarm the United States? Or is it Kim Jong-un's personal hobby? Third, the performance of the Hwasong-18 missile is still not good. I think this possibility exists, but it is not very likely. No matter how poor the performance of the Hwasong-18 is, it has achieved a range of 12,000 kilometers under a certain throw weight, which can meet the need to cover the entire United States. Unless the warhead launched by the Hwasong-18 is empty and the throw weight is faked, there will be a need to further develop a larger Hwasong-19. But at least so far, we have not seen conclusive evidence of a large error in the throw weight of the Hwasong-18. All in all, North Korea's Hwasong-19 intercontinental ballistic missile is still a somewhat ambiguous weapon in my eyes. The research and development intention and equipment position are unclear, and the tasks it undertakes are also unclear. More intelligence is needed to figure out the situation of the Hwasong-19. Let's continue to observe. The United States, Japan, and South Korea held a joint exercise on Sunday. Japanese and South Korean fighter jets escorted American strategic bombers on missions. The South Korean military said that this is the second exercise this year in which the air forces of the three countries are carried out to deal with the military threat from North Korea. after North Korea's recent test launch of an intercontinental ballistic missile. The United States, Japan, and South Korea conducted a joint exercise on Sunday, November 2nd and dispatched a B-1B strategic bomber to the vicinity of the Korean peninsula. This is the fourth time this year that a U.S. strategic bomber has flown to this area. The Yonhap news agency quoted the South Korean military as saying that this exercise aims to counter North Korea's launch of the Hwasong-19 intercontinental ballistic missile on October 31st. Deal with the increasingly escalating nuclear and missile threats from North Korea, and show the extended deterrence execution power of the ROK alliance integration and the firm will and strength of South Korea, the United States, and Japan in security cooperation. In addition to the US B-1B bomber, South Korea's F-15K and KF-16 fighter jets and Japan's F-2 fighter jets all participated in this EXERCI, say in the overlapping airspace of the Air Defense Identification Zones ADIZ of South Korea and Japan. They escorted the B-1B bomber to a designated location south of the Korean peninsula. A statement from the South Korean Joint Chiefs of Staff said that the exercise demonstrated an overwhelming ability to strike simulated targets quickly and accurately. The statement added that this is also the second trilateral air exercise among the United States, South Korea, and Japan this year aimed at dealing with Pyongyang's military threats. Just 3 days ago, Pyongyang launched a Hwasong-19 intercontinental ballistic missile into the Eastern Sea. It is said to be one of North Korea's strongest and most advanced solid-fuel intercontinental ballistic missiles ICBM. Experts say this missile can cover targets on the continental United States. According to Pyongyang and the South Korean and Japanese militaries that tracked the missile in real time, this missile flew higher and stayed in the air longer than any previous missile launched by North Korea. North Korea's official media, the Korean Central News Agency, praised it as the most powerful strategic missile in the world, and it was said that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un was very satisfied with the successful launch. This North Korean test launch of an intercontinental ballistic missile is considered an attempt to attract the attention of the United States before this week's U.S. presidential election. Pyongyang said it has sent thousands of soldiers to Russia to support its war in Ukraine, increasing international condemnation of North Korea.